Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond Max Q. I have the pleasure of introducing Nate Mason today. He has a very cool story to share with you. Not only has he been founder, he's worked with founders, he's worked in accelerator programs, he's founded accelerator programs, worked with VCs, and now he is the vice president of strategic growth, which is a very, I think, important role for any startup. And so I'm excited to have him here today to talk a little bit about things that he's doing and to give some of his advice. With that, please, Nate.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So my current role, like you mentioned, I'm Vice President of Strategic Growth at BQP. BQP is a seed stage quantum-powered simulation platform. What does that mean? It means that we are building new solvers that are going to be a back engine to existing infrastructure to solve problems around engineering optimization, data. So think about AI, ML applications and physics-based problems. So we are updating the algorithms that drive those innovations. Over the past 40 years, there's been really stagnation on that side of the innovation within quantum. The math has been known for a very long time, but no one is really taking a shot at implementing or updating modeling and simulations with this type of math. And we're starting to see huge improvements around speed ups and efficiencies and things of that sort. The main problems within modeling and simulation are with time and accuracy. So think about if you want to run a very complex simulation around air turbulence behind an aircraft, that can take up to 6 months using thousands of resources, and that just really isn't acceptable in today's world, right? So there's a time constraint there. So time and accuracy are the two main constraints, and so when it takes that long, engineers typically don't want to run simulations that long, and so they will sacrifice accuracy to get to a result. And neither of those are really acceptable, especially when you're building hardware that can impact human life, right? We've seen the turmoil Boeing has gone through in the past, several years with aircrafts not really performing the way that they were intended. And so that is an example of how things can go awry if you sacrifice on accuracy to get product into the industry quickly. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have tier one aerospace manufacturers like Boeing that take a little bit longer to produce a plane. And so there's those two ends of the spectrum where you have a time deficiency or an accuracy deficiency, and neither one of those should be acceptable in today's world. So that's what we're trying to solve. So what does quantum really mean? We're on like I said, on the algorithm development side. And so what we've done is taking quantum information science, specifically around like the principle of superposition, and we've encoded that into our algorithm. So using matrices and different mathematical calculations to get these speed ups. And so today, what we're doing is running on existing infrastructure, existing hardware on GPUs, using quantum inspired, as we're calling it, math, but building a roadmap with partners, strategic partners, both in the commercial sector and on the government, to have these algorithms implemented on quantum hardware when the hybrid infrastructure arrives and when the fully native quantum systems arrive. And as you can imagine, there's going to be exponential improvements as each of those systems are online. So
Yes.
that's a quick nutshell. So you can think of BQP as a quantum powered simulation platform for modeling and simulations in aerospace and defense.
It's very cool. I don't know. I feel like that's one of those jobs that you talk about when you're a little kid and you're like, I'm going to be a rocket scientist and like quantum physics. And like now you're actually doing it, which is really,
Yeah,
I love that. And I think it's exciting to also hear your story. Now you're VP of strategic growth at a startup. And I would love
yeah.
to hear a little bit about your story too, your personal story of like how you got there.
Yeah, so I started my career off in the Air Force. I am old enough to remember 9/11 and be affected by that. I felt a call to serve, and so I took a different path. I didn't go to college right away. I actually enlisted in the Air Force. Got really lucky with my job. I landed on an electrical engineering role inside of cryptography. So I really kind of fell in love with that role, didn't expect it. And when my first enlistment was complete, it was time to make a decision, like, do I separate or do I continue serving? And I just kept getting opportunities that I couldn't pass up. And so I decided to, reenlist again. And that reenlistment turned into another reenlistment, and that one turned into another. So I did 20 years, but my goal was never that. I just kind of fell into a really unique job, and it was really rewarding. I got a lot of experience, and it allowed me to really grow professionally and personally. So that's where I started. I did 12 years of active and then 8 in the reserve. So
Mhm.
when I transitioned out of active duty, that's when I started pursuing more roles that gave me a little bit more leadership opportunities. I had tons in the Air Force, but being an enlisted person, you're capped. You don't have all of the outlets for professional development like, say, an officer would. So I decided to go into management consulting, did that for a few years, really saw how strategic thinkers navigate complex environments like aerospace and defense, and learned a lot there. But finally decided that, okay, I really want to continue to push my professional development. And so I took a 2-year hiatus, went to Berkeley Haas to get my MBA in their full-time program. And on the backside of that, that's where I entered into venture capital and worked at Starburst for almost 4 years.
Yes.
I was there. Starburst is an early stage aerospace and defense firm focused on boutique consultancy,
Mhm.
consulting, accelerators, and there's also a fund associated with it. So it's pretty diversified business. It's not just a strict VC. It's not a consultant, right? It's not just an accelerator. It has all three. So that gave me a lot of experience coming out of business school on the back end, right? Like I already had the management consulting piece, so that I was able to add value there immediately.
Mhm.
But helping build and create accelerators was really rewarding. I got to work with a lot of founders and help them fundraise, help them do their business development, help them think about their go-to-market strategy,
Mhm.
help them find talent, help them think about marketing, right? All of these things that early stage founders are dealing with, like that
Mhm.
was my job to not only source them on the deal flow side, do the diligence, run the program, but be that like
Resource.
fractional senior leader.
I mean, I feel
So
like
that
you
was really cool.
I feel like you did everything. I mean, you when I last talked to you, it was like you were running all the different programs and answering all the questions,
Yeah.
kind of on speed dial for some of these founders.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. Like, I mean, they all had my number. They all had my personal email. Whenever they needed a question answered, like they would reach out. During my tenure there, I probably worked with um, over 100, 120 founders. So got to see a lot of different business models, got to see a lot of technologies, got to see a lot of problems and challenges. And so like all of those experiences have really helped me in my current role, right?
I feel like
So
you need to write a book.
drawing on my experience. What's
Actually,
that?
I feel like you need to write a book because we're not going to have time
Yeah,
to talk through all of that in this podcast. And I know people are going to want to just dive in on all that experience. Truly, like what you say 120 founders, and those are the ones that you sourced, right? So it's like, okay, when you're looking at founders, what's
yeah.
the criteria or how do you know that one has a spark? I want to pull it into a program, right? What's that thing that you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question because at early stage investing, whether it's at an accelerator or at a fund, it is about the people. I mean, everything's always about the people, right? You could be at a Fortune 500 company and your mission should still be about the people, right? You shouldn't get distracted about that. But it's even more important when you're making a decision about whether or not to bring a company into an accelerator or invest in them. And the things that I would look for, like outside of the norm, right? You're looking at the product, the solution, the market space, the opportunity, right? Is does this founder, it's the small things. Like if I email, do they email me back right away, or does it take them a week to respond? Um, what like how do they answer questions during like a diligence session? Like, do they handle the pressure, or do they kind of bubble? Um, do they seem to have that passion and spark about it when you ask about the problem and the
Mhm.
solution? Like, have they done the legwork in the beginning? And it's like kind of piecing all of those things together to say, I think this person has it, like they have what it takes
Right.
to get to the next level, right? Like you have to be a self-starter. You have to have a bias for action, and I can't. be your reason for that. Like that has to just be there already.
Mhm.
And so because it's hard building a company, especially when you're one person in a garage or two people and you're not even funded yet. And
Right.
it's like, how do you wake up and stay motivated when real life hits? Like you have kids, or you have to pay your bills or whatever. Like, are you still motivated to try
Mhm.
to achieve this particular goal? So like those are that's there's a heavy weight that's put on that, and it's because you know people try to start companies every day, and there are a lot of smart people that start companies, but I think the ones that succeed are the ones that are persistent, right?
Mm.
You don't always have to be the smartest in the room. You don't always have to have all the money, but if you're constantly knocking on the door and not taking no for an answer, that is kind of like the motivation or drive that I would look for in a founder.
That's a great answer. That was really well said. I also would like to dig in a little bit on the funding piece because I know in a past conversation we've had, you illustrated a little bit of what you look for, how you fund, kind of the breakdown of that. I would love for you to explain that in this podcast.
Yeah, from a founder perspective, I think the most important thing to think about is fund dynamics. So understanding the how an investor at a venture fund runs a business, right? So if you have a $20 million fund or say there's two funds, say you have a $20 million fund and you have another fund that's 500 million,
Mhm.
there's going to be different motivating factors on how they underwrite a particular deal, right? So a typical fund will have 25 to 30 investments per fund. They're looking for every 10, 1 to 2 that are really like a home run. So
Mhm.
you can think of like 3 to 6 out of 30 to really perform. So an investor, say as a VC, a venture capitalist, if they're not self-funded, they have investors that are investing in them called LPs, limited partners, right? So the GP, which is the investor on the fund, the general partner, has to return money back to their LPs,
Right.
and they're not looking for a 1x, they're looking for a 100x, right? So understanding like what does that really mean? So if a fund is $20 million, they have to return 20 million. And if they want to get a good performing fund, let's say they do 3 to 5x, let's say it's 5x, so they say they want to return 100, they want to get $100 million back to their investors, right? Um, that's a little bit easier, quote unquote, to do than say someone that has a $500 million fund,
Mhm.
right? And if they have to return 3 to 5x, that's a lot more capital,
Right.
right? That they need to return. So the risk profile of companies that they're looking for is different. The $20 million fund may take a bet on a company that doesn't have a big of a market opportunity,
Mhm.
right? Say as the $500 million fund. So understanding what your company brings to the table, the market opportunity, the TAM, really understanding how to back into those numbers, and then identifying, uh, you know, uh, investors that align with
Mhm.
with what you're building, right? And not just reaching out to anyone and everyone, kind of having a strategy, understanding those numbers, so that way when you do have the conversations, you're able to talk intelligently to the investor about this is why I thought about our TAM is this amount, and if we have these projections at a conservative a slope, we're going to be able to get this evaluation, thus return money to you and your investors, and really understanding that whole ecosystem and not just like what you're building. I think is really key.
Mhm.
And if you come to the table already with that, you're going to prove that you've done the work, you have what it takes, like you understand, like this is a long-term relationship as well, right? Like it can be in deep tech at least like 7 to 10 years before you have a return. And so
Mhm.
really understanding like, okay, we're going to have these quarterly or bi-monthly investor calls. Like I need to understand what their priorities are so we can all be on the same page, moving in the same direction.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like it also kind of translates to, when you're an employee, you're like, okay, how do I make my boss look good to their boss? Like that, if you have that
Yeah,
mindset, right, then it's like, then you become indispensable. And I think
yeah,
it's kind of like that same philosophy for like, okay, well, that you're answering to a bunch of different people. There's like a chain. It's a really good way to think about it.
yeah. Everyone still has a boss, even if you
Yep,
have your own firm.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
kind of doesn't go away.
Nope, it does not. Even at the $100 million level. But which just blows my mind. You start talking some of these large numbers, and you're just like, wow, okay. Um,
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to dive in a little bit more on too is your current role. So,
Mhm.
VP of Strategic Growth. That's a big title. That's a big responsibility. I would love to hear from you, like how you approach that role, and especially from like a startup's perspective, what does that look like?
Let me explain exactly what I do first. So I guess there's three pillars to like my responsibilities officially, but the role is a little bit wider than that. Um, but come on as building strategic partnerships. So think about how do you meet the right program managers within a federal agency to help inform them about about quantum information science, right? So there are a lot of program managers that are looking to just get educated, build workshops, understand new technologies that are coming out. So then that way they can inform policymakers.
Mhm.
Then that can, so that way when they pass like an appropriations bill like the NDAA, National Defense Reauthorization Act, they have the right information from industry experts, right? Obviously, they're sourcing from industry, from academia, from government, but they want like this whole approach. So understanding like that ecosystem is part of my role, like building those long-term strategic relationships. The second piece is around business development. So how do we identify, qualify, and capture business, whether it's in the government sector or on the commercial side? So
Okay.
we're a dual use company, right? Like we're building a technology that can be used for um, wargaming within the Defense Department, or it can be used for payload optimization
Mhm.
on the commercial side for an airliner, right? So going after those businesses, and then finally, because I came out of investing, I have a pretty good network. We're a seed stage company, so continue to build those relationships for our fundraise, the seed stage and the Series A. So those are kind of like the three primary buckets of responsibility: strategic partnerships, business development, fundraising. But it's also included like helping with our rebrand,
Sure.
thinking about how does that impact our market share.
Mhm.
It's helped. I've also been involved in corporate restructure. So how do we go after, or how do we set up our entity in a way that makes the most sense
Mhm.
for the U.S. market, right? I've also worked with, let's see, our legal team, understanding a little bit more about corporate restructure, but like other issues there. So the role isn't just those three functions that I described. It's kind of being I came out of the military, retired as a master sergeant. I have unique experience from that past career, so I bring that to this role as well, like helping to coach
Mhm.
our co-founders, like making sure they remember like what's the long-term plan, how do you get up and speak effectively in public,
Mhm.
how do you engage with multiple stakeholders, like really thinking long term, right? Um, what's our go-to-market strategy? What's our pricing strategy? Like
The
all
price
of those things are kind of like
is
in
tricky.
my purview.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
pricing booster. That's really good. I love that. And those are all things I think people need to consider, but maybe don't, especially you guys you're out there selling, you're, already testing your market fit. And I
Yeah.
feel like, you don't have to get it 100% right either, right? You just get out there and start doing it.
Yeah.
Can you
That's
speak?
such a good point. No, that's such a good point, right? Like, not letting perfection kill like your innovation or your progress, right? Like saying, let's just talk to people. It may be we may be going in the wrong direction, but who you won't know until you ask or until you test a theory. So just really getting out and like A/B testing. Like when I am working with our sales team and we're doing just cold outreach,
Mhm.
every time we're A/B testing our messaging, right? Like what is getting more traction, what isn't, what's working, what are people responding to? Just kind of always being curious about solving a problem or making a process better. Like not getting stuck and saying, "Oh, we've done it that way and we're going to continue to do it that way for forever." Just kind
Mhm.
of always questioning and moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Um, okay, for the sake of time, because I think I could probably interview forever. You have so much knowledge. Nate is in the Max Q community. If anybody wants to reach out to him afterwards, I'm sure he'd be open to that.
Yeah,
He's a
absolutely.
really amazing human being, not just knowledgeable as well. So just know that. And I think I'm gonna link his company, all the cool things that he's doing, in the video description. So you guys can see that there too. And then just our last final question, what are you currently reading? Because we love that one.
So I am reading something really dry. It's related to my role. It's more on the sales side, but it's called "Let's Get Real" or "Let's Not Play," and it's essentially. a book about strategy and just like getting insights from people who have done this much longer than I have. And so just really trying to learn from some like experts, but it's all around like how do you talk to potential customers? How do you not be salesy,
Mhm.
right? Like no one wants a salesy email or sales call. And what it boils down to, honestly, is just like really um, understanding the customer, like working backwards
Mhm.
from their problem. Like what is motivating Molly today in her role, and what problems are you having, and really trying to understand that and presenting solutions later, right? Like um, not selling you in the beginning. No one wants to be forced to hear what I my great idea, right? Like so it's kind of just reiterating like let's work backwards from the customer's perspective and really keep that strategy in mind. And it's a really effective tool. I found that the book is helping me in my day-to-day role. So, if anyone's looking for that type of material, I really highly recommend it.
It was let's get real or let's not play, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything that you want to like leave as a parting like comment or thought before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll get a little personal and give you like a quote of mine that has like helped me move from being an enlisted airman to going to a top business school to now working at a venture-backed startup. And it's a quote that it's never too late to become the person you might have been. So for me, it has just been a constant reminder that like, when you get tired in your day-to-day role and it feels like you're stuck and there's nowhere to go and you kind of have to just deal with the situation that you're in. I mean, you do, but it's never too late. Like you can change if you just decide to change your direction, right? And it takes a lot of work, right? Like I was a management consultant when I decided to go to business school. So I was coming home and studying for the GMAT like 3, 4 hours every night for months.
Yes.
And, that wasn't fun, but I wanted a different outcome in my life. And so, I didn't think it was too late for me. I was 32 and I was like, well, I'm going to go to business school. And so I decided to do that. And, it was the best decision ever. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have like this quote or mindset. So that's something that I'll leave everyone with.
I love that. That's great. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day to chat with us. And it was truly a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly.